In this episode, we take a look at Step 1, Throne of Angels Army Painting Project number 1. 0101, number 1. Welcome, host, to another. Today, enforceable episode of the Throne of Angels video blog. As always, I am your host, Mr. Derek Osborne, here to show you a world in miniature. Got to be a little calm today with the hammer. I've got a different table in here. I've got this foldable plastic table. One of those, 8 or 6 foot long ones that fold in half. You get at Costco or Collector's Club or whatever the hell place you shop at. Because we've got showings, right? A lot of showings this week. And the table that I normally have, my hobby table, is like from the early 80s. My dad brought it home from Alaska. And it's like 3/4 inch particle board with like this 2-inch metal rail that goes all the way around it. And I mean, it is solid, weighs like 80 pounds. Moving it is a pain in the ass. So the wife uses this room as an office during the day. She needs a table to actually work on. And this one is really light and easy to move to and from the garage because it's smaller. That other table doesn't fold in half and become, a little 2.5 foot carry with one hand type thing. It is literally 80 pounds and has to be packed in and out. Real pain. So, new table, gotta be a little bit calm. All right, welcome to the first episode of the Army Painting Project 01, Painting Project 1. I'm probably going to swing my hammer around a lot because I don't have any guests and I don't have any things to put my hands on because, well, there's no boxes to show you and no random stuff and no things. So I've got the hammer, and that's basically what's going to happen. I'm going to bitch it with the hammer. So I apologize for that. So, Necromunda Project, right? The Paladite the Paladite Enforcers / Subjugators. I forgot to say Enforcers. So the Enforcers / Subjugators from the Dark Uprising box are pretty much on the table behind you. They're behind the camera. So behind, on the other side of the camera. Anyways, Necromunda. I got a long and storied history with Necromunda in Blood Bowl. It's when I was in my early 20s. I worked at a grocery store and hung out with a bunch of guys, and we played Blood Bowl and Necromunda on a very regular basis. We had campaigns and leagues, and it was a great time. We'd interrupt that stuff with the game of 40K or Fantasy Battle every now and again, but it essentially became a club, Ordo Fanaticus. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. It is still, in my opinion, probably the best and largest independent gaming club on the West Coast. It's fairly large. OrdoFanaticus.com. You can figure it out. I'll probably put a link in the comment section below. But if you're on the West Coast, anywhere on the West Coast, check it out because they do host a club challenge where people from Canada and Idaho and California, Oregon and Washington, they all converge in Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, one of the hotels right there on the river, and they have events usually twice a year. That was pre-COVID, but I'm sure they'll get back to it once things open back up. Before anybody jumps into the comments and says, "Hey Oz, why didn't you put up a Blood Bowl team?" Well, Blood Bowl is that game that still makes me very angry to this day, right? Doesn't matter if it's physical or digital. Every time I play that game, I get pissed off. So I don't play that game anymore. I don't want any teams. I'm not going to put any teams up on the board. I don't have any desire at all to be Blood Bowl in it, right? Because that is a game where you spend all this time building up 3 to 4 of like your superstars, right? Your star players, and then you get to where your team's rated at 380, and then all of a sudden you have a game against, Jason Weaver, and he kills 2 of your star players, and then your team rating sinks down to 200. And I mean, it's just terrible. So it happens on the digital side of things. It happens on the physical side of things. Oh man, it's a game that makes me angry, so I don't play it. Necromunda, however, I love. Absolutely love Necromunda. Even though I was a Spire player, and it was very frustrating being a Spire player playing Necromunda with the boys. Every once in a while I play an Escher, maybe an Orlok gang. Vansar, I think I played once or twice. But for the most part, I was just hard stuck on Spires. I really love the Orsus. The big, burly, bulky dudes. Shocking, right? However, the way that the game worked back then, if you lost 25% of your army, you take a bottle test. And that was one guy for me. So as soon as I lose one guy, I take a bottle test. And generally at that point, the game was over. Usually fail that first bottle test because the number of remaining models was 3 and it just sometimes 2. I mean, it was terrible, but it was still fun. I still enjoyed it. And a lot of times I was written into the campaign as a guy who would come in and just really interfere with like some of the leading gangs. But that is a story for another time. Today's story is about the Palanites, right? So the Palanites out of the Dark Uprising Necromunda box, there's 5 Enforcers and 6 Subjugators. And for the most part, they are getting close to assembled. They'll be done and assembled, I would say, probably by the time this video hits the web in the morning. Anyways, my buddy Mike York, he called me out on the last video and said, dude, I wanted to see some painted models and all I got were stories about home improvement. So Mike, I've got paint on models just for you, brother. Thanks for the comment, keep it up. Let me see, where else am I at with this project? Oh, really simple. So I don't have any co-creators for Necromunda, which is totally fine. 100% not a problem. However, I will say, if you do have an inkling to jump in, I'm going to give anybody one more week, right? This week, I need communication and then a video by Sunday. If I don't have that, then I'm flying solo with this Army Painting Project. Now again, it's a painting project, not a challenge. So there's no t-shirts or freebies or random stuff sponsored by the YouTube channel, which essentially is just me. But with that, we've got some models to look at. Not a ton of stuff to talk about outside of that. So let's just jump right to it, take a look at the models, and then we'll come back for a quick wrap. We are back to killing it with that top-down isometric view. Again, until I get something set up the way that I want, this will probably be the way that it is going to come about. When I get everything like painted or stuff done, I'll put them on the turntable. But for now, I think I've just settled with the simple fact that this is what it's going to be like. So, as you can see, we've got a new red grass cutting mat as our background. I wanted one of these for some random reason. It was probably because it's like over here, up here, right in this area here. It's got base rings, right? And that, to me, is kind of a big deal because it lets me immediately size a base. I know it's not like that big of a deal, but it's kind of one of those things that I think is great. So with that, what do we got here? Well, we've got 5 Enforcers, these dudes, and 2 Subjugators, these dudes. I will say right now that I am a bit disappointed in the simple fact that there's way too much in regards to mold lines to clean up on these. Now I will admit that they're easy enough to clean up, but mold lines that I hate are ones that go like across the face or across the top of the helmet, right? And this model here, we'll zoom in and I'll show you. Zoom in too much and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can see right there, dead center in the middle of his helmet, right there in those 2 depressions, that's where that mold line was. It went all the way across, and you know, I mean, basically I took it out here and here on the sides, and then obviously the ear sides, and you know, when they're covered up, people are like, what does it matter? Well, to me it matters. And then we've got the separation, right, that needs to be filled, and I doubt I'll fill that with anything other than paint. Yes, you can fill with paint when it's that small, and that's obviously where the 2 body pieces come together. But for the most part, if you guys aren't aware of the enforcers. Well, that's what they look like. They look like these guys. These guys are enforcers. This is Captain Dude. I haven't given him a name yet. So if you know anything about the Palinites, and I read this the other day, they actually are coded with numbers, right? They have 3-digit non-sequential numbers as their identifiers, or they're given an identifier by their squad mates. Reason being is they don't want the gangs and ne'er-do-wells to know how many of them there are in any given area. So they all have different call signs, which are 3-digit numbers. So with the enforcers, basically I've got simple armament, right? I have 2 guys with these enforcer bolt guns, which I thought were just cool, right? There's a pair of them, these 2 here. I have the sniper that I just showed you. Captain has this gun, I don't remember what it's called, but basically it's a, I don't know, something that stuns people. And then a simple shotgun, dude with the handcuffs. So I will say, the one thing that drives me nuts about Games Workshop models is they don't do modularity anymore. They used to a long time ago. You had options when you were putting models together. Now they do, obviously, with some of the plastic Space Marines, but for the most part, if you're not buying Space Marines, you get the pose and the model that Games Workshop wants you to have. Sure, they look great, but let's say I'm playing somebody else who's running Palinites. If we have the same exact color scheme, you never know whose models are whose, right? And then I will say the one thing that drives me absolutely crazy is having models or an army that, even if it's painted differently, looks exactly like my opponent's or a friend of mine's, or, you know, somebody I know, or whatever, right? It's one of those things that just kind of irks me. So I generally tend to convert a lot of my stuff, but with this painting project, it's a painting project, which means I'm just going to assemble and clean and then paint, right? I'm not going to go through a whole lot of stuff. Now I will say, so the subjugators, this is my captain for my subjugators. He's got a stubber or stub gun that is normally in his right hand. I don't like stub guns. To me, they're 6-shooters and I can't stand them. Also, I don't like bare heads for these guys. It's not that I don't like painting flesh. I do actually enjoy painting flesh. I just don't like the bare heads on these guys. So this guy has, I don't know, some kind of super jackhammer. I don't remember what it's called. As you can tell, I'm really taking this seriously. But I do have four more subjugators to put together. There is 1 on this sprue here, and then 3 on the other sprue, which is the exact same sprue. Now, the one thing that the Games Workshop marketing department says, oh, we give you a bunch of extra pieces so you can do a bunch of different options for your stuff. There really isn't enough pieces to do different options in this setup for what they're talking about, right? I could give my guys I have 3 stub guns that came with the enforcer set, and then I have 2 shotguns and 1 other enforcer bolt gun. So not a huge amount of options in regards to what these dudes here specifically are going to be armed with, right? And I was basically looking through these different pieces here because these are the pieces, right? There's a shotgun, there's a shotgun. This is the stub gun that goes with this guy here. But I have 2 stub guns here, 2 shotguns, the bolt pistol, there's another stub gun right there. And then you've got, basically everybody starts with a stub gun. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 4 stub guns. Everybody starts with a stub gun, but for the most part, they're all in holsters, right? So these are all holstered up stub guns. Anyways, so that's where I'm at right now. I still have 4 guys to assemble, and then I'm going to Z-prime them, right? Zenithal priming. So that's what this is. I know you guys all know this, but just for clarity's sake. 4 more guys, 4 more subjugators to do. Got their bases all right over here. As I get them assembled, we'll throw them up, we'll prime them, and then I'll at least hit base coats this week, I know for sure. So other than that, man, I think we're solid. So let's rock and roll right to that wrap. And that wrap. Boom. So there we go. 2 subjugators, 5 enforcers assembled. Obviously the enforcers are Z-primed, and the subjugators, once I have them finished, they'll get the Z-prime as well. Now, while I didn't actually put any color paint on the models, I did put paint on the models. That's all for you, Mike. As I said earlier, my buddy Mike York called me out. Mike is one of the few individuals that I have been blessed to share a stage with in my lifetime. Mike and I went to school together, and we were both pulled out of our respective classes as the individuals with biggest personalities. So I share that with him as well. Mike, I love you, bro. Let me see. Oh, I bought a jersey. There we go. There's my wrap. I bought a jersey. Bought a football jersey that will obviously reveal the paint scheme before I show you the models. Because I'm going to wear it next week. You'll see the jersey, and no, it's not a football team. It is a football jersey that has something on it. And that something will most definitely be an instant reveal as to how I am painting this force. There will be color on this force obviously next week. Like I said, I expect to have these guys finished tonight, and I will start painting them probably Monday or Tuesday, which is tomorrow, or the following day. I do have, actually no, it might be Tuesday or Wednesday, because I have to drive into Georgia and drop some stuff off and then have lunch with a buddy on Tuesday in Roswell. Anyways, with that, yeah, models are pretty much prepped. Have 4 more to build, but it'll take me, I don't know, a couple hours. And then obviously Z-prime, and I will start shooting some color. And from there, it's all downhill, right? Right? Downhill. Yep, definitely. Okay, that's all I got for you this week. So as always, thanks for joining me, and we will see you next week. Mike, check 1579 3752.